sitting here in my buddy's rollback. We're about to head to Fairway Subaru in Greenville, South Carolina to pick up a new project. I know, I need more projects. I haven't finished any of the other projects I have, but oh well, too bad. I'm stupid with my money, what can I say? I want to buy another project. So, time to hit the road. Check back in when we get closer. Well, that sucks. That's a kick in the gut. I've finished about a 2-hour drive all the way out here to Fairway Subaru in Greenville to look at this WRX. It was, well, it's no longer a mystery, guys. No longer going to hold back what it was. I came out here for a 2011 WRX Limited wagon. It was a 90,000 mile car, 5-speed manual, all the options, sunroof, leather, everything, you know, being a limited model. Guy told me that he was driving the car and it just shut off on him. Pulled over to the side of the road, would not restart. Engine was seized, locked up in it. Was brought here to Fairway Subaru and they diagnosed that there was no oil in the engine. He doesn't know where the oil went. They don't know where the oil went. I've looked the car over. No external leak that I can see. So all I can assume is it was consuming a large amount of oil. At 60,000 miles, he had a clutch put in the car and a new turbo put on the car. Well, the new clutch, I asked why at 60,000 miles was he already having to put a clutch in the car. And he said that he burned it up from learning how to launch the car and from racing the car. So that scared me in itself, because that makes me think that there could be transmission damage too. because as most of us in the Subaru community know, the 5-speed transmission in the WRX is not that strong. When you start beating, ripping, and racing on it, they break, and they break hard. So the fact that this engine seized up and I couldn't hear the car move or drive, you know, and not knowing the condition of the transmission as well as the engine made me a little skittish on it. And then the fact that he said they replaced the turbo at 60,000 miles, and I asked him, well, you know, why did they replace the turbo at 60,000 miles? He said, oh, well, while they were putting the clutch in, I just told them to go ahead and put a new turbo in. I'm like, you don't willy-nilly put in almost $2,000 OEM turbo unless there's an issue. So originally I thought that maybe the turbo went and the oil seal went and it sucked all the oil out of the engine, locked it up, because that happened to my buddy's STI. He had the oil seal in his turbo blow, and basically it siphoned all the oil out of the engine, blew it out the exhaust, and seized the engine up. But he claimed that wasn't the issue, and I didn't see any evidence of that in the exhaust. Then on top of that, there was a lot of body damage on the car. He showed me pictures of the car and told me, you know, there was dents here and there, but it was, when I got there here in person, it was more severe than the pictures revealed. The driver door was going to have to be replaced. The passenger door, both doors were going to be replaced, and the driver's side fender had to be replaced. The front bumper was cracked in 2 areas and scuffed and needed to be repainted. The back bumper was cracked. The clear coat was peeling on the hood, not the hood. There were a couple bad places on the hood, but the clear was peeling on the hatch spoiler and in places on the roof. The hatch area was extremely beat up. There was a lot of damage to the plastic, and I mean, it was fairly dirty. I mean, a lot of it would have been fine with a thorough detailing. Another issue was all the wheels were curbed. The tires were crappy, low-dollar tires, and they were kind of over half-life tread gone. And it had some really cheap, crappy eBay lowering springs on it, and the back end was nearly on the ground, because most of us know on the hatches, they get the saggy butt syndrome, as they call it. Especially with the cheap springs, when I looked under there, the rear coils were completely collapsed. It was just sitting coil on top of coil for about 30, for about 2/3 of the spring's length. The top 2/3 of the coils were collapsed and touching each other, so not good. I was going to replace a lot of suspension components. I had no clue what the transmission's condition was. I knew I was going to put an engine in. I was already priced out a brand new short block to do the heads, my gasket kit, time about water pump, you know, everything to make it done and, you know, do it right. But then the body damage, I was going to replace 3 doors. I had body damage in the rear arch behind the passenger door on the passenger side, and the rear door on the passenger side, and it was just going to be a ton. I mean, I figured like $3,500 worth of mechanical damage on the low end from what he told me, not knowing what else is bad once I get it up and going. And then probably about another $2,500 to probably $3,000 in body damage repairs. So 3 doors, a fender, the lower parts of the fender, the trim pieces on the fender, a front bumper, and paint it all. So he had it for sale for $7,000. I had laid out from pictures and what he told me how much it was probably going to cost me to fix it. So we had agreed at $55,000 before I even came out to look at the car. After I looked at the car and saw that, you know, the body damage was worse in person than the pictures had, you know, than I thought it was from the pictures and what he told me. And I said, you know, look, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get the car for $55,000. So then he threw out $5,000 at me, which Blue Book on this car right now, or value on it, depending on where you look, is between $14,000 and $16,000. But I was feeling I was going to put at least 8 or 9, maybe more than that in it. And even at 5, I was like, no, that's not going to work. I was planning on making between $3,500 and $4,500 between buying the car, repairing the car, and selling the car. But with the amount of damage now that I see to it and everything else, I was like, I'm going to come very close to the value of the vehicle once it's fixed and ready to sell. So I was like, it was going to be a bad investment. So I just decided I was going to walk away. no hard feelings to him, no hard feelings at all. I mean, I'm just out some diesel fuel and time to drive out here and look at it. But other than that, you know, it's all good. There will be other Subarus. There will be other cars. I really didn't need to buy it right now because I got 3 projects right now I haven't finished. But anytime I run up on a great deal, which this looked like a better deal than it was once I got here, still might be a good deal. You know, I'm just kind of being extra critical, especially when it's that kind of money being tied up. My $500-600 cars I buy, I don't really wince at that. When it's, you know, $5,000 to $7,000 investment plus, you know, it I do my calculations a lot more strenuously when it's that kind of money being invested. So, but I'm going to drive up here and at least give you guys a look at the car. The owner left to go back home, and gonna head back home. 2-hour drive. So know you're not going to be able to see anything, but at least you can hear me. It's about 8:45 right now. I just got home about 45 minutes ago. And during the 2-hour drive home, I had a lot of time to think about the car and the deal and everything. Thinking back, I think I might have screwed up by not buying the car. The owner of the car told me that the engine had seized up. It had run out of oil. It was diagnosed and confirmed by Fairway Subaru. When I first got there to look at the car, I pulled the dipstick out to check the oil. Well, it was full of oil, and it was dark oil, that had been in an engine and run. It wasn't like the Subaru dealership had dumped in, 4 or 5 quarts of fresh oil to try to get the engine to start and diagnose the issue. So at the time I wasn't thinking, I was trying to take in everything that the owner was telling me, everything I could see, and, mentally wasn't exactly in the right state of mind after, 2-hour drive and dealing with traffic at 5 o'clock and everything else. So red flag there. I didn't think about the oil, the fact that there was dirty oil in there and then it was full. Second thing, the owner had the valet key for the car. He put the key in the ignition, turned it on, and when I was under the car, under the hood looking around, as soon as he turned the key on, both cooling fans started blowing and blowing at full speed. Well, the car, of course, was not up to temperature because it hasn't run in 3 weeks. It's been sitting behind the Subaru dealership, and the AC wasn't on, so the cooling fan should not have come on. When I got in the car, sat in the car, I wanted to try to start it just to see what it was going to do. Well, when I turned the key on, everything came up on the dash, everything illuminated like it should, all the warning lights, everything. So I asked the guy, I said, when the engine locked up on you, I said, tell me what happened. And he said, well, I was just driving along and it cut off and I coasted to the side of the road. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. It just cut off. There was no noise, no low engine, low oil light, no oil pressure light, no anything. He said, no, it was just like someone cut the key off. Didn't even pop into my head. Sounds like this car does not have a seized engine, for the fact that there's, it's full of oil and it's used oil. It's not fresh oil like Subaru poured it in there. The fact that there was no low oil light, no oil pressure warning light, and there was no knocking, no noise, no drama of any kind. He said it was just like someone turned the key off. That engine, I think, is actually okay. I think the problem with that car is there's an electrical issue. What? I don't know. But I was a little late getting out to head out to the dealership to look at the car, and I didn't have a chance to run by the farm and grab some tools. I wanted to take a long 1/2-inch ratchet with a 22 socket so I could try to spin the engine over to see how hard it was going to be to get it to break loose. I wanted to bring my borescope, a couple hand tools, pull a spark plug out, run the borescope in, see how scored up the bore was from, running low on oil. And, just a couple other things. I wanted to bring a jack so I could jack it up and get a better look at the undercarriage and suspension, because he couldn't tell me much about it. But, yeah, now that I'm thinking back and after replaying everything that went on, everything he told me, everything in the messages, everything I saw, it doesn't really add up. Because another thing he told me was he had an issue with it where it wasn't running well. Had a check engine light. He couldn't tell me what the code was. So he said he put a set of spark plugs in the car. Well, then he put a full set of ignition coils in the car. Subaru ignition coils rarely fail, and they do not fail under, 60,000 miles. This was when he replaced these along with that turbo and the clutch. So what the deal? Obviously, the guy that owned it was not mechanically inclined in the least bit, but yeah, I think I've screwed up here listening to what he told me, because the car was telling me louder, was speaking to me louder than he was. So I think I might have lost my shot at getting a 2011 WRX Limited for $5 grand. But, you know, like I said, I couldn't hear it run. It could have still had a rod knocking or something stupid going on in the engine, even if whatever the electrical issue was. I was gonna have to find springs for it because it had crappy eBay springs on it and it was sitting on the ground. I was gonna have to replace 3 doors, a fender, the front bumper, paint almost the entire car, detail the crap out of it, and, you know, fix whatever else was wrong with it. So at the end of the day, that $5,000 initial investment on the car could have turned into, you know, $7,000–8,000 in repairs. I'd have been at, you know, $12,000 to $13,000 tied up in a car that has a blue book on the high end of 14.5 private party at 90,000 miles. So I wouldn't have made any money on it. So being as it was probably the best that I walked away. But, you know, you still kind of go over your head of what could have been. Did I really make a wise choice in this walking away? But it is what it is. I need to get the Legacy GT repaired and going. I need to get the SVX repaired and going first. So it is what it is. Just wanted to close out my final thoughts, so to say, when I was on the way home, and close this video out. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.